today on Beyond 6 Seconds.
I think that when you can learn how to put yourself in that state where you are being it before you even see it, then that's going to keep you going more than anything. And that's the hardest thing for people to accomplish, but that's the biggest thing that will create transformation.
Welcome to Beyond 6 Seconds, the podcast that goes beyond the 6-second first impression to share the extraordinary stories and achievements of everyday people. I'm your host, Carolyn Keel. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Toni Coleman Brown. Toni is an author, small business strategist, marketing expert, and motivational speaker. In 2012, she founded the Network for Women in Business, an online educational platform that teaches female entrepreneurs her signature small business success program, Focus, Finish, Promote, and Profit, as well as provides group coaching and networking. The motto of the network is, "We educate to elevate women in business." Toni is also the host and creator of two popular live events, the Small Business Bootcamp for Women and the Online Marketing Mastermind Live. Toni, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you're here. Toni and I, we first met at the Small Business Bootcamp for Women, which was just a couple months ago, and I got to see her sharing her expertise in action. And Toni, I know one of the things that you're really well known for is this ability to generate and convert sales leads into actual sales. So how did you discover that you had a specific talent for that?
Well, actually, it was years ago when I was a part of a network marketing company. Mm-hmm. One of the things I've always had a passion for was internet marketing. And I mean, ever since the internet started, I could really say I've been around since the internet started. It's just so crazy, right? Most people are like, what? But yeah. Ever since the internet started, I've just been fascinated by it. And one of the things that we did when I was with my network marketing business was I began to generate leads online. And it was a funny thing because I was actually building websites. I learned a little bit of HTML code, which you needed back in the day. Yep. And I was self-taught. And what I would do is build these lead capture pages. And then from the lead capture pages, I would run Google ads. And at this particular time, the Google ads weren't that expensive because I was targeting the name of my network marketing company, and the network marketing company wasn't that popular at the time. So I could run these Google ads and build these lead capture pages, and it wasn't very expensive because not everybody was doing it at that time. Right. And I actually was able to teach my team members how to do the exact same thing. And if they couldn't build the lead capture pages, I would build them for them. And as a result of that, Carolyn, I was able to go to the top of my network marketing company's compensation plan, meaning that I went from just being a regular rep to a 3-diamond national vice president. And at that time, there were only 7 worldwide. Wow. So it was really exciting. It was really fun. People kept wondering what I was doing, how I was doing it. And from that, I actually started teaching people how to do the exact same thing. But it was really just my fascination with it. I was passionate about it. I had taken a lot of online courses, and I really just taught myself. And it was an interesting journey, but fun. And it's been working like crazy ever since. And now today, it's so much easier to generate leads. With lead pages and all of these other tools that you have, you can just drag and drop and create leads. And with, social media, you can run social media ads to your target market, and you can begin to just generate a whole host of leads. And then the conversion part is where the magic comes in. Mm-hmm. Now, with my network marketing business, I converted people over the phone. And I still believe that the best way to convert people is over the phone. Oh. If you have a good sales script, you can really begin to just turn a lead into a customer relatively quickly. Now with email software providers and autoresponders, you can convert people today with your copy. And it's about writing the right words that speak to your ideal customer and really knowing what they're thinking before they even think it and being able to overcome their objections through your copy. And you can convert people today without even talking to them. And I mean, and if you throw a video on your lead capture pages and on your websites, that, just takes it through the roof. That takes it even higher because video helps to build that know, like, and trust factor even faster. So I've been fascinated with this for years. And I think that the fact that I'm self-taught, makes it a whole lot better because I believe that experience is your best teacher. And when you've done something, it's easier for you to teach it to other people because it's not like I'm just taking what somebody else has told me and trying to facilitating from experience. Right. And that makes it just so, so much better. And I'm sure you experienced that at the boot camp.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's amazing that you're self-taught because that really shows that you're, one, obviously really interested in the topic, and two, it's a proactive process that you have for always kind of looking out for what's new and what can I learn and how can I improve what I'm doing, over a period of many years as technology changes. And I feel like technology changes faster and faster. So while it's easier to create those lead capture documents, at the same time, Google ads are now much more expensive and it's a much more crowded marketplace. So you have to continually adapt to that.
Yep. But I think that if you are constantly being yourself and you are constantly putting out, just great content and good material, that you will automatically attract those people that are looking for you. Because one of the things that I've learned over the years is that two people could say the exact same thing, right? Mm-hmm. And people will receive it differently. People attract to the person that's for them. Like we want everybody to be our people, right? But everybody is just not going to be your person. Mm-hmm. And we have to learn how to be okay with that. And those that are for us and those that can receive and hear and learn from us, then, they're going to be there and they're going to show up and they're going to show up all the time. That's one of the things I've learned over the years, because when I look at the people that are my customers, a lot of times they've been people that have been following me for a long time. And then they convert all of a sudden. I say something and, I'm like, wow, I'm surprised. And then some people have been on my list for a long time, but I just didn't recognize it. Right. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they convert. But it's just an interesting phenomenon. And I mean, and I've experienced it myself. I mean, I'm sure you have too, Carolyn, when you've experienced different trainers or different facilitators or different thought leaders, and somebody can say the exact same thing, but you receive it differently from the person that resonates with your heart. And you just have to wait for those types of people to show up, and they're there. So that's why I believe that there's just enough for all of us to be successful and grow. And even with the crowded marketplace, even with more expensive ads and all of that stuff out there, I still believe that the people that are for you will find you.
Yeah. And to that point, I think sometimes you have to say the same messages over and over again, because the person may be following you for a long time and you kind of have to get them after they've heard it a couple times and they're ready to convert. So I guess sometimes you feel like you're repeating yourself, but I think that's part of sales, at least through email marketing, it seems like.
Yeah. And you know what I think too? I think that it's not really repeating yourself. It's really getting to a place of mastery. Yeah. That's how I like to look at it, because you're right as it relates to a person hearing the message when they're ready to make a purchase, because maybe, a couple of years ago, they weren't ready, but today they're ready. But I also think from my own personal perspective, I don't know about anybody else, but I know that even though I may say the same things that I've said years ago, I know that I'm even saying it differently because I'm not the same person that I was years ago. I've grown And sometimes when you've grown, you learn how to deliver the same message in a different way, because sometimes you may have been saying it before, but it just wasn't the right way to say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I always look at like, how can I say that differently? How can I say that in a way that it just really is crystal clear and it makes sense? Like I tell people to do this sometimes even with their resumes, like rewrite that sentence.
Yeah.
Rewrite that sentence. Is it clear? Is it clear? And so sometimes it's because you've grown with your messaging and you've gotten to a point of mastery. And you can say it in a way that's just so simple that people really get it. And maybe before they weren't getting it because how you were saying it. Yeah. I don't know. That's just what I think I've experienced over the years.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, that totally does make sense. And, you really are building those relationships. It's funny, even if you never have a conversation or you don't have a conversation with someone who's following you maybe for months or years, but at the same time, you're still building that relationship with them by relating and working on your messaging and growing along with them. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Definitely.
Yeah. And you talk a lot about these themes, or at least you did at the last Small Business Bootcamp for Women, a lot about lead generation and really encouraging women to build their businesses through email marketing and building email lead lists and mailing lists. What inspired you to start the Small Business Bootcamp for Women and focus on those particular themes?
Well, that's interesting. Basically, when I first started the Network for Women in Business, I had the first Small Business Bootcamp for Women about 4 months after I started the network. And that was because I knew I wanted to have an event and I knew I wanted to do something belly to belly. I wanted to be able to touch people and see people. And I knew that having a live event was going to be like a premier part of what I did with the network, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I had that first event, I said, okay, what am I going to talk about? And that first event, I talked about, social media marketing. And I went over all of the different platforms. And at the end of the day, the message was probably still the same, like how to generate leads via social media and things like that. But I've always known that people have said in the past, oh, your money is in your list. Your money is in your list. Mm-hmm. And I've always been like really adamant about people having their list and people understanding that your list is probably one of the biggest assets you'll ever have in your business. And let me tell you what I equate this to, right? Because you have Jeff Bezos, right, from Amazon, and you have Steve Jobs, may he rest in peace, from Apple, right? And everybody, when they look at Amazon and they look at Apple, Amazon, you think of, the world's biggest online shopping mall. Apple, you think of the world's biggest cell phone technology company, computer company. But at the end of the day, Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs were not really into the phones and just selling all of this stuff. You know what they were really into? Capturing credit card information. That's the business they really were in. Understanding the buying behavior of their customers through their credit cards. Right? And so now you see this evolution because you have Apple Pay, right? And the reason why these companies are into capturing credit card information, because if they know that if they understand the buying behavior of their customers, then they can make more money because you can segment to them. You can sell differently to them because you understand what they want. You could get to a point where we're not there yet. Well, we might be a little bit there, where when you walk into a store and you walk down an aisle, your phone will be able to tell you where you can find your favorite item that you buy all the time.
Oh, yeah. We're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're not quite there yet. But so I look at having your business and having a list pretty much the exact same way. Because when you have a list and when you understand and you can tag the people on your list and you can do lead scoring and understand like who has opted into multiple items, who from the list has purchased different items, then you can become a better seller because now you have a better understanding of their buying behavior. Also, too, now you own your asset rather than relying on running a Google ad or running a Facebook ad. Now, all you can do is send an email and you can pull money from your list like an ATM machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always understood the value of that. And one of the things that I've always wanted to have my people in my tribe understand the value of that. And I wanted them to always understand that that is an asset and you need to own that asset. And it's been one of the probably hardest shifts for people to get because I don't know why every time I talk to people, it's like nobody's building their list. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, how do you think that you're going to be able to, one day, if you decide you want to have an event, where do you think you're going to get the people from?
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you're going to get butts in the seats? If you decide you want to launch a new product, who are you going to promote it to?
Yeah.
How are you going to generate sales? And people still struggle with that whole concept of building a list and communicating with people on their list. Listen, that's a message, Carolyn, and I think that I'm going to go out fighting with that one, okay? Because I understand it. I get it. And I think that the more people understand that and get that, the better off they'll be. And I want everybody to win. I want every entrepreneur that's out there to win. And I believe that it's just certain 1-degree mindset shifts that they need to make in order to make that happen. And that's one of the things that I'm committed to, just helping them to make those little shifts.
Yeah. And that's really powerful. It's such practical and tangible advice to build your email list. And I don't know if people just get distracted with all the new technology and social media platforms that come out that email. It's strange to say email just seems very old school at this point, but it still works for a reason. And it's that richness of data that you can more easily collect. You don't have like some algorithm filtering out your ads, or you don't have to pay to get your message out necessarily. That's a list that you quote unquote own. You can grow and you can communicate, as you've said, however many times you want, however you want to, directly to your audience and know more about them.
And it's powerful.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah. So this is one of the many things that you talk about during the Small Business Bootcamp for Women. Why did you make the decision to focus on women and specifically help them with these kinds of tactics?
I think that because first and foremost, I'm a woman. Mm-hmm. And secondly, I believe that when I was in my network marketing business, it was a business that was kind of geared towards women. Mm-hmm. And so I've developed that affinity to working with women. And that's, when I made my pivot out of really building a network marketing business, I decided that, I like working with women. And so I will, but I'm pivoting again. And that's one of the reasons why I'm launching my Entrepreneur Success University. Ooh. Because one of the things that I've discovered over the years is that I've met a lot of men that want the content, right? And some men have joined the Network for Women in Business in the past, but they want the content too. And I think that I'm probably going to do even more pivots, and calling the group more like, Circle of Champions or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that I can have more men involved, because I've had a lot of men come to me and say, I want this information too. And, I've had some of them come to me and ask me, well, I want to create a network for men. Can you help me do that? So it's been interesting. Yeah. Yeah. But I have an affinity for women, and I believe that women are making such huge strides, but we still have such a long way to go. And I'm committed to working with that population to help them understand. But it's funny because I do work with men, and I'm finding that their struggles are very similar to women, but the way they deal with them are very different from women, which is very interesting. It's very interesting. And I mean, and it, you remember that book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus?
Mm-hmm.
I totally feel like that's the truth these days. I really do, because I believe, like I said, we have the same struggles, but we deal with them very differently. Yeah. Very differently. It's interesting.
What kind of differences do you notice?
Well, I think that women, we talk about our issues. Mm-hmm. And we don't have a problem with sharing and opening up. And I mean, and you see a lot of women get together. We laugh, we cry, we are open with our feelings and emotions. Men are not. Men are not. Men don't open up like that too easily. They don't. They don't like to share. And I think that men compartmentalize very well. And they put up these big, big, big walls around their emotions. And, a lot of times I think that if you ask a man to tell you about himself, he'll go over like his resume in terms of accolades and awards and all of these great accomplishments. And I think if you ask a woman to tell you about, tell me about yourself, most women will talk about different things, more emotional things, more, personal things. So it's interesting because one of the things that I found is that because men have such a strong need to provide for their families, that to them, success is all about accomplishments. Mm-hmm. And for women, it's quite different. It's quite different. For women, as a matter of fact, we don't even see a lot of our accomplishments because we're so busy taking care and nurturing, right? And so for men, it's like providing, but for women, it's like nurturing. So it's interesting. It's really interesting, the things that I've seen.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense when you think about the cultural expectations just very broadly around, men's roles and women's roles. Yeah, very interesting. Wow. Mm-hmm. So you've had quite a varied career. You've worked in corporate, you've been a full-time entrepreneur, worked in network marketing. Sometimes you've done one or more of those things at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think what you're working on now is that you currently do have a career working in corporate, but you also have these other businesses as side hustles. Yeah. How did you make the decision right now to work in corporate and have all of these side hustles?
It's an easy decision for me because my side hustles, I'm very passionate about them. And I haven't gotten to the point where I feel like, it's work. I hate it. And you know what I mean? Like some people, I find that what happens with a lot of people is that they want to have a side business, but the balance of working full time and doing their side business, it becomes so overwhelming that they get so tired and so exhausted until they just shut one thing down and focus on the other. And most of the time, the corporate job wins, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. For me, I'm so passionate about work and passionate about my side businesses until they're almost like one and the same. And I'll give you an example.
Sure.
Because of the fact that I run an internship program, I deal with young people, and, I get an opportunity to meet a lot of different people. I have a lot of external partners and internal partners. And I run a mentorship program even also at my job. I find that what I do at work is not that much different from what I do with my business. And basically, I'm doing the exact same thing. And a lot of times I facilitate workshops, and the workshops are about professional development. Personal growth and professional development is not that much different.
Right.
And because they're not that much different, it's almost like I'm living my best life. You know what I mean? Because I get to do what I love, both at work and at home. And so, it's not difficult to me. It actually comes easy. And also, I've gotten of the mindset where I utilize my income from work to help fund my business.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I've gotten to the point where my business is funding itself. And now I'm getting to the point where I can hire people to help me with my business. And I see myself very soon running my business full time because of the fact that it's certain shifts that I just recently made that God has gotten me to the point where my business is past break even. So we're in profit.
Wow.
And now I can afford to hire help. And I know that that's going to make all the difference in the world. And I mean, it actually made a big difference with the boot camp because I was able to hire help, and I mean, and that just gives you a higher sense of security. It makes it even easier for you because it's like you don't have to worry about doing everything. And as a solopreneur, one of the hardest things that I had to learn how to do was delegate.
Mm-hmm.
And delegate with ease and confidence and understanding. And even though I know that everything won't be exactly the way I want it to be, at least I didn't have to do everything. So delegating and hiring someone else has been one of the biggest blessings for me. And I know that moving forward, that's going to help me scale and that's going to help me get out of corporate. And I mean, and what's good about it, Carolyn, and I'm going to be totally honest and transparent, I'll be getting out of corporate at a time when I will have a nice income from my pension and still have, so it's good. It's all worked out really well. And I feel so grateful for that because I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, and all of this stuff is true, when people say, oh, yes, you got to let the job go. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do all of these things. But at the end of the day, when you do a lot of those things and you haven't grown into the person that you're supposed to be in order to run your business, then what ends up happening is you end up back in the same circumstance that you were before you started your business and you end up back in corporate. Yep. So I am thankful and blessed for the journey. And I fully understand who I need to be in order to get what it is I need to get.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations on growing your business to a point that you'll eventually be able to have that as your main source of income. That is really incredible, and that you'll be able to grow and hire help that you can delegate tasks and other activities to. And I know you were talking before about you feel very fortunate because your work in corporate and your side hustles seem like they're integrated, they have common themes, and you're still excited about your side hustles. And I'd imagine that for a lot of solopreneurs, particularly when they're starting out and maybe they're not really making a profit yet, so they don't have money to hire people they can delegate to, but at the same time, they're doing all the work. So I imagine those, first couple of years are really difficult in terms of how do you keep that energy up, especially if you're also working a full-time corporate job. And it sounds like you've been able to find that balance and master that, where you can kind of get through and focus on the right tasks that you need to do and be able to generate enough income to fund and delegate those tasks. So how did you do that? Because I just see that as such a challenge with, even with myself and the podcast. Like, as you know, you also have a podcast and there's sometimes no limit to the things that you can do or need to do with it. And, and that's just one project. So how did you find the way to work with your side hustles and either delegate early or prioritize the tasks so that you could get the income and then hire the people to delegate the work to? I don't know if that made sense. It was kind of a long question.
So yeah, that balancing it all and, getting to that point is all about really taking the time out to really look at your business and look at your business like a business. A lot of us, oftentimes when we first getting started, we're just doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not stepping into the role of a real CEO. So we're not really being the CEO of our company or the CEOs of our company. And we're just doing all of these activities without taking the time out to analyze and look at what you've done and seeing, looking at your business analytics. I remember when I worked in budgeting, because I'm not doing that anymore. My background is finance. And, when I first started out, I was a budget analyst for the Port Authority. And one of the things that we used to do every month was we would look at all the revenues and look at all the expenses and see, what the results were. And, did we go over? Did we go under? And why? So we did variance analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I find is that a lot of solopreneurs don't look at their business like a business, and they definitely don't look at their numbers, right?
Right.
So one of the things that I would do is that, every month I would look back and say, okay, well, what did I do? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? And I would try to learn from it. And I would throw away the things that I did wrong and keep the things that I did right. One of the things that I also understood was that when I first started out in business, that there were tools that I needed. And even if the business wasn't generating the income to get the tools, I would still make the sacrifice and get the tools that I needed to run my business. And I knew that at a certain point in time that I would earn the income to pay for those tools. I just knew it. And I was willing to make the sacrifice until the money showed up. And a lot of people I have found are not willing to make the sacrifice until the money shows up. And that really has to go towards belief and believing in themselves and believing that they will at some point generate the income that they need. Now, I've made money and I've wasted money, and that's another problem. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times we'll get things that we think we need and we really don't need it. And then we beat ourselves up and we say never again.
Yeah.
And then that prevents us from getting the real tools that we really need that will help us get to the next level. But oftentimes what happens is, you get burned and you feel like, oh, I tried that. I used that in the past. It didn't work. It almost goes towards what, this is something that Tony Robbins says. He says that, if you think about these 4 things and you think about them as being in quadrants and, at the top right, you have potential, and to the right of potential, you have actions. And right below your actions, you have results. And then to the left, you have belief or certainty, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he says that, we all have potential, and we go into business because we know we have the potential to make money and be successful. And then we get into action and we do all of these things. And then when we look at our results, we don't get the results that we want. And then we go over to belief and we don't believe. So therefore, we end up having this potential that never gets realized because we've taken the action and didn't get the results, and therefore we don't believe anymore. What we really should be doing is we should get into the belief and the certainty first so that we know that the results are going to show up, and then take the action so we can live up to our potential. So we're doing it in reverse. And therefore, we're creating these negative stories and these stories of disbelief. And therefore, it's causing us to not live the life that we want to. So therefore, a lot of times what happens in business, to get back to your story, is that, when people are doing their side hustle and they're doing all of these things and they're not getting the results, they don't believe that they're going to be successful. So it really taps into, their inner belief of what they can do and what they can't do. And then what ends up happening is it prevents them from making the initial investment that they need to make in the short term so that they can have the long-term success. Because just because you don't have it right now, that doesn't mean you won't have it in the future, right? And so you have to remember why you're in business first, right? Why are you doing it? And your why has to be really strong enough to keep you through the times when the trial and error. And you have to think more like a scientist. You know, a scientist does trials. They know everything is not going to work, but that doesn't stop them from doing the trials and the experiments until they find the things that work. And see, we give up too soon. But when we have a strong why and we have belief that one day it will happen for us, then you won't stop. You won't stop. I mean, even in the book, Think and Grow Rich, you know, I think it's like in the first chapter of the book, Think and Grow Rich. One of the things it says is that if you have a strong desire and, you know, to do something and you will not quit, right? You're guaranteed success. Guaranteed. Strong desire, you know, and I think they may say, you know, coupled with a detailed plan of action and you just don't give up, you're guaranteed success. And I mean, and, you know, like, I don't know if you're a spiritual person, but it also says the same thing in the Bible, right? In the Bible, it says, you know, you may have heard this before where people say, write the vision, you know, write the vision and make it plain, right? Now, it's funny because they stop right there. Right. They stop right there, right? Where it says, write the vision and make it plain. Now, I know in that particular scripture that it says, write the vision and make it plain on tablets. So basically, it's like, write it down. Right. And it's like, write it down in such a way that if somebody else comes along and they read it, that they can run with it. Right. So your plan has to be so detailed that if somebody else picks it up. So if I come behind you, Carolyn, I could say, oh, yeah, Carolyn wanted to do this, this, and this. Oh, Carolyn is not here, but I could do it. Right. So that's how clear it has to be. And then it also says that you know, whatever you want, your vision, it comes at an appointed time. Right. And it says that it hastens to the end and it will not lie. So basically it's saying that it comes when it's supposed to come. And that's just facts, not fiction, right? But then it says, but if it seems like it's taken a long time, wait for it. Because it's going to come and it won't delay. That's the whole scripture, right? And I'm paraphrasing, but that's the whole scripture. So basically it's saying, all of it says the same thing. It's just like you have to have a detailed plan. You have to know what you want, right? Yeah. And then you have to just make it really crystal clear. Go forward towards it because it's going to happen. But a lot of times what happens is because it's not happening the way we want it to happen, because it's not happening when we want it to happen, that we think it's not going to happen. And we get in this crazy loop. And then we get to the point where we're like, we don't believe anymore. And then we quit. And that's just like they said, the guy who was digging for gold, that whole story, and he was 3 feet from gold. He quit right before he was about to hit the goal. That's the story of most people. And I mean, and that's what keeps people, you know, gets people tired, gets people to the point where they're like, oh, you know, I don't want to invest in my business because I don't know if this is going to work. And then they get discouraged and then they end up getting tired because they're doing all these things and they're not getting the results. So they might as well just stay at work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I read and hear over and over again the importance of basically what you just described is like having that overall vision, you know, whether you call that your why or your mission or strategy. And also, as you said, it may not happen the way you think it's going to happen. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen another way. You know, you're always learning and growing along the way. So maybe you start out with some tactics and that doesn't work, but you learn something else about your customer base or different products you can offer, and then you make adjustments. But you're always guided by the visualization of like, this is why I'm doing this. This is the value that I want to bring to other people. And, you know, it's everything from, if you ever do coaching, why they have, some coaches will have you do like visualization exercises where they have you get detailed about what you want, whether it's like a future job or a future business, what you want it to look like, feel like, what the whole experience is. make it real and really help you continue to focus on the end destination. And then it helps you prioritize and line up all of the tactics and the activities and the work, because you have to do the work, but you have to kind of know what work will support your end vision if you know where you're going.
Yeah. And I totally believe all of that. But even above all of that, I think that you have to be that person. Like you have to be the person on the inside as well as on the outside. And I think that when you can learn how to put yourself in that state where you are being it before you even see it, then that's going to keep you going more than anything. Mm-hmm. More than anything. And that's the hardest thing for people to accomplish. But that's the biggest thing that will create transformation, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting. It's, life is interesting. I just think that at the end of the day, we all should be going forward towards what we want. I feel sad when people get discouraged and they quit and they give up. Sometimes people on my email list, they'll unsubscribe. And sometimes I read what they say. And sometimes they'll say things like, oh, I'm not in business anymore, or I'm not doing that anymore. And I just feel so sad when they, when they say stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's too bad. You know what I mean? But because, people are, sometimes they give up, sometimes they quit. I'm like, oh, that's too bad. But I keep going. I keep going.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like it's part of your why. So that makes sense that you have that mission and you're always driving towards accomplishing it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you've done all kinds of things in your entrepreneurial career, in your corporate career, in all your side hustles. And I'd love to know if you have one, I would call it a success story with a client or someone you've worked with, like anything that is particularly meaningful that kind of sticks in your memory. I'd love to hear, some of the ways that you've helped and made things better for the people that you work with.
Yeah, for sure. There are a couple of them. I could think of this one lady who has like a greeting cards business. And one of the things that she did was she started up her Facebook business page. She didn't have a business page before she met with me. And one of the things that she wanted to do was started generating leads. She wanted to generate leads on social media. And she came to one of my events and she was a skeptic. She was just like, oh, I didn't think that, I was going to be able to do any of the things that Toni said, but I listened to what she told me to do. And before you know it, I had like 150 people on my email list. And then, I made the changes that she said on social media. And before you knew it, I had 3,500 people following me and even more people on my email list. So that's one person. But then there's this other lady that I know. She's not only a client, but a good friend of mine. And, I've worked with her over the years. And I am just blown away at how she's become this technology person, and she asked me recently to help her create some lead capture pages, and I did. And one of the things she was saying to me, oh, well, we have this affiliate link and people can sign up. And she said, but you can embed this code into the lead capture pages, right? I said, yeah, I can do it. And she said, yeah, let me show you where you can get the code. And to hear her speaking in that way, just like, I was just like, wow, she really got it.
That's
you know
great.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And she was just like, yeah, you could get the code right here. And I was just like, yeah. And she didn't, I think I even told her how impressed I was with just how far she had come from a technology perspective. So to see people growing like that and really getting it and really understanding the possibilities, that's just been huge, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah. And again, it goes back to, you being largely self-taught and learning all of the techniques. It's, anytime someone is interested enough to go and learn all of those techniques so that they can kind of become more technical, build those skills and things like that, that's really awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, and so the students that I've had in my online marketing mastermind live event, which I don't do very often because it's a 2-day event and you're literally locked up in a room for 2 days with me. But at the end of the day, it's one of those types of events where I'm not standing in front of the classroom teaching. You have your laptop and you are building your assets.
Mm-hmm.
And I teach them how to build their own lead capture pages and, connect their email service providers with their lead capture pages and start building up their autoresponder emails. So I teach them how to do it. And, the curriculum and the way I have it laid out is just step by step by step, and they're in action. So they're doing it for themselves. And then, one of the things that I found is that there's nothing like experiential learning.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can come and I can stand in front of the room and I can facilitate all day. But experiential learning where you're actually doing it, it helps you to grow in leaps and bounds. And that's what that 2-day live event is about. It's about really letting you come in and actually getting into the action and getting into the groove of doing it for yourself. And that's different. And that's and I did, some experiential learning in the boot camp.
Yeah.
And you saw it where, I'm just like, okay, now let's do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference. And that was, believe it or not, that was the first time that I had done the boot camp in that way, and where people were actually getting up and doing the work. And I knew that it was just going to be impactful. But I believe that, once I saw how it kind of played out, I was like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Experiential, and you're in learning and development.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
Experience is your best teacher. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I know at the boot camp we did that with the email list, and especially with that topic, because when I went to that boot camp in the morning, like I did not have an email list. I honestly probably, like many people, hadn't really thought about doing an email list for my podcast. But by the time I left, because you had done that exercise where we literally had to get up out of our chairs and have that conversation with people and talk about basically asking them, can I sign you up for my email list, even if it doesn't exist yet? Which is good, because that can potentially be kind of an awkward conversation, just asking people hey, sign up for my newsletter. But in that context, it's not, because it's no, this is what we're doing now. We're building our lists and we're all here for the same reason. So one, it helps kind of break the ice. And two, it puts the wheels in motion so that literally by, I think that night I went and signed up for MailChimp and put together my lead capture page. And then by the next day, which was the end of the weekend, I had a list and a couple names on it already. So that's really powerful to do it that way.
Yes.
Yep.
See, you're another success story.
Oh, yeah. Because I'm telling you, I go to plenty of, I go to a lot of conferences and, I'm in training. So it happens a lot. Same with training classes. You go and, you have a good time, you learn a lot. But then, a lot of times you kind of go back to your desk or, wherever your house or wherever you go and then sometimes you just kind of forget about it. You don't take action on it. So they say if you have to take action within the next 24 to 48 hours or you're not going to do anything. So I think exercises like the ones you did at the boot camp were really powerful. So yeah, now I have an email list that's growing. I'm really excited about it. That's one of my big initiatives for 2020 is my list.
Awesome. Yeah. That's great. Good stuff. I love hearing that.
Thank you so much for getting me kickstarted on that. That is so awesome. Toni, you've got so many great things that are going on. You've got, it sounds like, some really great plans with your new network for 2020. So how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about all the great work that you've got going on?
Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 websites. The first one is the Network for Women in Business. And I know it's long, but it's the Network for womeninbusiness.com. So you can find out all about what's going on there, but also you can visit me at my own personal website, ToniColemanBrown.com. Those are the 2 places that you can find me and see what's happening, see what's going on, and what kind of stuff that I'm getting into.
Fantastic. Great. So, and I'll put those links in the show notes too, so that people can refer to them there as well. Cool. So, wow, Toni, thank you so much for being on my show today. As we close out, is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know or anything else that they can help or support you with?
I would like to leave your listeners with a word of encouragement, basically. I would love for them just, if you want to connect with me, definitely, ToniColemanBrown.com, and that connects with all of my social media. But I just want your listeners to know that life is about living, and that in life, you're either learning or winning, but never losing. This is something that Nelson Mandela said, and this is something that I truly, truly believe. Just live life to your fullest and understand that life is not happening to you, life is happening for you, and that we're always winning. And if we're not winning, we're learning. We're never losing. So with that, I would love for them to carry over into 2020 and beyond the fact that they should live with a winner's attitude, because at the end of the day, we're all winners.
It's a great perspective to have. Well, thank you again, Toni. This was a really great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carolyn. I've enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to Beyond 6 Seconds. Please help us spread the word about this podcast. Share it with a friend. Give us a shout out on your social media, or write a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player. You can find all of our episodes on our website and sign up for our free newsletter at www.beyond6seconds.com. Until next time.